So, ODB, former Knockouts champion, is back with Impact Wrestling because former four-time Impact Knockouts champion ODB made her anticipated return to Impact Wrestling last night on another episode of Impact Wrestling on AXS TV. Now, following a 3-on-2 beatdown by current Knockouts champion Deonna Purrazzo, Kimber Lee and Susan on the tag team of Jordynne Grace and Jazz, ODB came out to make the save for Grace and Jazz. Now, at the time, Susan, an alter ego of Su Yung and Susie, seemed to think that ODB was coming out to assist the trio, but ODB proved her wrong by taking out Susan and lending the assist to the fallen Jordynne Grace and Jazz. Now, it's been over about a year or so since ODB last appeared for Impact Wrestling when she was in a triple threat match for the Knockouts Championship at the 2020 Impact Hard to Kill event, ironically against Jordynne Grace, and then Knockouts champion Taya Valkyrie. Of course, Taya Valkyrie is no longer with Impact Wrestling. Crazy how much can change in the course of 12 months. Don't we know it? We've all lived it over the last year. But that match, of course, ended a brief return to Impact that began in late 2019. This followed an appearance for AEW in the Women's Casino Battle Royale at All Out that prior August. Now, also in December of 2019, she made several appearances for the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA, on their TV show NWA Power on YouTube. Prior to her brief return in 2019-2020, she had last appeared for Impact in the spring of 2017 after spending 2015 and 2016 with Ring of Honor, where she was at the time an associate of the Briscoes. Now, of course, before joining Ring of Honor in 2015, we're scaling back the timeline of ODB here. She had a 7-year run with TNA/Impact Wrestling from 2007 to 2014, where, as I mentioned, she was a 4-time TNA Knockouts champion. Now, last night's return from ODB wasn't a big surprise. In fact, ironically enough, luckily we got the video out yesterday. We spoke about it yesterday here on the channel. We said that ODB had confirmed that she was set to return to Impact Wrestling very soon. Might have been a little bit sooner than we thought because we did the video yesterday. I did the video yesterday, talked about ODB. That had been news, frankly, about ODB for a few days. So I thought, you know what, maybe time has passed. I don't know. I'll put it out anyway. There's something to talk about when it comes to ODB, so I'll put it out. And then, lo and behold, she returns last night on Impact Wrestling. So if you want me to do your lottery numbers, let me know in the comment section below, because apparently I'm on fire when it's coming to predicting what's going to happen recently. So, as I mentioned, her return was no secret because she recently revealed in an interview with Chris Van Vliet on his podcast/YouTube channel that she was indeed returning to the ring, and it was Impact who reached out to her. Although her exact return date at the time wasn't exactly known. She said, quote, "I'm actually getting back in the ring, so Impact obviously called me, and that's the cool thing about stuff. I've never burnt a bridge in wrestling. Yeah, we all have had our bad moments and stuff, where whatever you want to, whenever you want to tell everyone to go F themselves. Impact was awesome, TNA was my home, and they buzz me, and every time I'm like, oh gosh, oh boy, here we go. But they were like, hey, do you want to come back and see what happens, and possibly bring the food truck? So that's my ultimate goal, is to actually drive ODB's meet and greet into a stadium and kick some ass." So there you go. ODB is back with Impact Wrestling. As I mentioned, we did the video yesterday talking about her return and what she could offer to the company. And I mentioned at the time, ODB has a ton to offer Impact Wrestling. I mentioned one of the names that had recently left was Taya Valkyrie. I think ODB definitely has something to offer. You know, Taya Valkyrie, as I mentioned, she's just left Impact Wrestling, and let's face it, Taya Valkyrie was the longest reigning Knockouts champion in Impact Wrestling history. Taya Valkyrie losing someone of that caliber, that level, it's a massive loss. It's a massive loss to Impact Wrestling, and it's certainly something they want to try and fill, even for a short period of time. Now, is ODB at this stage of her career the level of the Taya Valkyrie? Obviously not. But while they're trying to build up new stars, trying to raise new stars to the level of someone like a Taya Valkyrie, is bringing someone like ODB in a good call and a good option? Absolutely, absolutely. So I thought it was exciting to see her back. Again, we don't know how long she is going to be back for. Given the circumstances of how she returned last night on Impact Wrestling, it looks like we're probably going to get a situation where we have ODB, Jordynne Grace and Jazz facing off against Deonna Purrazzo, Kimber Lee and Susan. How long this feud goes on for, I don't know. Maybe it might just be a case of ODB just came in for one set of tapings. That will lead to No Surrender. And post No Surrender, we might not see ODB again for a while. Maybe it's a case of we see ODB with Impact Wrestling for 6 months or a year. I don't know. These things, when it comes to Impact Wrestling at the moment, kind of are difficult to predict. Impact Wrestling have a lot of talent, frankly, that are working on regular appearance deals at the moment, or just coming in for a couple of TV tapings here and there. Matt Cardone is the same. James Storm is the same. We've seen a variety of names that haven't signed contracts with Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling has frankly just given them a call and said, do you want to come in, see how you feel, see if we can work something out. If you can't commit to a long period of time, that's fine. We just want to try and see what's going on. And I think especially given the current climate right now, where maybe the funds are slightly tighter than they were previously. I mean, Impact Wrestling are very well backed. I've mentioned this before. It's kind of a misconception about Impact Wrestling that they're not financially stable where they are. If anything, they're maybe more financially stable than they were when it comes to their time with Spike TV and Panda Energy. Now, you might say that's crazy because maybe Impact Wrestling or TNA did have more money at that period of time, but they certainly were losing a lot of money as well. Look at Impact Wrestling now. They're a way more financially viable product. They are way more financially stable. They're owned by Anthem. They're on their own TV network. They don't have to worry about anything like trying to bring in money through the television networks or anything like that. They're a self-sustaining promotion right now, and they're doing good content, and they've got a bit of buzz, and people are excited about Impact Wrestling again for the first time in a while. Is that because of the AEW and Impact Wrestling relationship? I think that's part of it, but I think also people are just starting to realize it's consistency. It's consistency. Impact Wrestling have been doing a good product at this point for a long time. They've been doing a good product for the last 3 or 4 years, certainly since Don Callis and Scott D'Amore came in, and certainly since they took the reins, and I've gone in a bit of a different direction with Impact Wrestling, even through the last 12 months of the pandemic. Arguably, Impact Wrestling have had one of their best years in a very long time when there were no fans there, which goes to show how much Impact Wrestling is thriving recently. So ODB, I think, as I mentioned, her return wasn't this grand surprise last night because, frankly, we spoke about it yesterday, and she mentioned to Chris Van Vliet that she was going to be returning soon. There's been quite a few returns, actually. There was another return last night, which we'll do a video on tomorrow when it comes to Rohit Raju, and I think that goes hand in hand, as I mentioned before, with this issue with talent going out of Impact Wrestling right now. Obviously, there is quite a few people that have had their contracts expiring with Impact Wrestling recently. Some have departed, some have stayed, some their future hasn't been decided just yet. Whether it's Ethan Page or Taya Valkyrie, their contracts expired, they left the company. We don't know their next steps right now. People like Sami Callihan, their contracts were expiring, he stayed. You've got other people whose contracts are expiring soon, whether it's Jordynne Grace, whether it's Rich Swann, whether it's Moose, whether it's a variety of names. That certainly is drawing a lot of attention from people within the pro wrestling industry right now. Impact Wrestling maybe are looking at it like, okay, there are people leaving. There are some people which we don't know if they're leaving. We don't know their situation. Maybe we need to bring in some other people, even if it's on a short-term deal, just in case. Or maybe if it's a case of just bringing them in so we've got some extra bodies around because we might be light for a couple of weeks. Maybe ODB falls into that category when it comes to the Knockouts division. I don't know. But I still think ODB does have a lot to offer. Obviously, she is ingrained into the history of Impact Wrestling and the Knockouts division. As I mentioned, 4-time Knockouts champion. She also, and I think this is really crucial as well, has a plethora of history with the Knockouts Tag Team Championship too. Of course, she was one half of the last Knockouts Tag Team Champions before the titles were vacated and removed back in 2013. She was one half of the Knockouts Tag Team Champions with Eric Young. Now, what of course is interesting about ODB returning as well is this is the first time that ODB and Eric Young have been in the same company for a long time, probably since around whenever Eric Young and ODB were there last, so probably like 2015, around that period of time, 2014, whatever that time period. So in kayfabe, are they still technically married? I don't know. Technically, ODB is still married to Eric Young, I guess. Would their gimmicks really cross over at this point? I don't know. I don't know if they really would. I mean, Eric Young isn't the comedic character at all anymore. He can still do it, but that just isn't what he does in Impact Wrestling right now. Of course, he's leading the Violent by Design faction with the likes of Joe Doring, Dina, maybe even Cousin Jake, maybe even some others in the future. It certainly would be interesting, though, wouldn't it, to see if they could get those characters to cross over once more, even if it was just for a throwback segment, or even if it was just for a segment backstage where they bump into each other and sort of give each other the eye again, if it were. I don't know. I don't know how that would work out. It certainly would be interesting. It would be interesting, and I don't know if I'd be totally against it. Just because Eric Young isn't doing that kind of thing anymore doesn't mean that they couldn't do a segment. Why does ODB have to be a comedic character? I know historically she's always had that element of being comedic, but if they wanted to do something really, really different, They could have Eric Young maybe go up to ODB and say, look, we've got a history. At one point we were married, and I know I was almost a different man back then. I was a comedic man and I was a lost man, but now I found myself and I found all these other people with me. I've got the likes of Joe Doring, Dina, Cousin Jake with me. And I think there's a spot for you in this Violent by Design faction. That would be really interesting. Could you imagine a completely different ODB at this late stage of her career? They try and find a different version of ODB. They have her join Eric Young's Violent by Design stable. That would be something I think that would be really interesting. Now, will it or will it not happen? I highly doubt it. As I mentioned, I think, frankly, that ODB has probably come in for a couple of appearances. She'll likely team with Jordynne Grace and Jazz in a six-person tag match against Deonna Purrazzo, Kimber Lee and Susan. That will probably be the extent of it. She might stay around for a little bit more, maybe even have a Knockouts Championship match against Deonna Purrazzo at some point. But if they really wanted to do something really unique and different, I would be really, really interested to see ODB have an interaction with Eric Young. Maybe have even if it's a couple of weeks or just one segment in the ring where Eric Young reunites with ODB and then ODB shows a completely different side to her character, turns heel and then joins Eric Young's Violent by Design stable. How fantastic would that be? Not only have you got the tag teams of the Dinas, you've got the big heater in Joe Doring, you've got the leader in Eric Young, but then you've also got a bit of knockout representation with ODB there as well. I think that would be really, really interesting. It would be something that, I don't know, I think would be a really unique bit of television, and certainly something that maybe not everyone would see coming, and would be a lot of fun to see, and it would be a nice throwback and a nice little reward to people that have been loyal viewers of Impact Wrestling for years and years at this point, to say, you know, you remember ODB and Eric Young way back when? They're back together, but they're completely different, they're serious and they're badass at this point, so you don't want to mess with either of them. So that could certainly be interesting, but who knows if it will happen. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on ODB returning to Impact Wrestling last night on AXS TV? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, WWE, AEW, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved with the comments in the community. All comments and opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.